first time I saw this painting, my initial thought wasn't about how heartbroken the people in the painting might be. Instead, I found myself wondering about the gender of the person being embraced by the elegant, noble-looking man. Without the sword hanging from his waist, I could hardly tell. After observing the painting and then reading its title, David and Jonathan by Rembrandt, I finally understood the story it was portraying. Do you remember David, the shepherd boy from Bethlehem mentioned in the previous episode? With nothing but a sling and a stone, he defeated Goliath, the giant Philistine warrior, bringing victory and glory to Israel. This time, the story demonstrates how the covenant and selfless love between people can transcend both class and gender. King Saul, who ruled over Israel, was deeply impressed by David's bravery and brought him into his royal court. David's humility, courage, and devotion to God endeared him to everyone, especially Jonathan, the king's eldest son. Jonathan, though a skilled warrior and the heir to the throne, saw something extraordinary in David. The two young men quickly became friends, bound by mutual admiration and a shared faith in God. The Bible describes their bond in 1 Samuel 18:1. The soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. To solidify their friendship, Jonathan made a covenant with David. He gave David his royal robe, armor, sword, bow, and belt, symbols of his status as the Prince of Israel. This gesture was not just one of friendship, but also a recognition of David's God-ordained destiny. Jonathan, though the rightful heir, humbly acknowledged that David was chosen by God to be the next king. As David's fame grew, King Saul became increasingly jealous. The people of Israel sang songs praising David's victories over the Philistines, which only deepened Saul's paranoia. He began to see David as a threat to his throne and sought to kill him. Jonathan, however, remained steadfastly loyal to David. Despite being Saul's son, he refused to let his father's hatred sway his commitment to his friend. When Saul first plotted to kill David, Jonathan intervened. He pleaded with his father, reminding him of David's loyalty and the victories he had won for Israel. Saul temporarily relented, and David's life was spared. But Saul's jealousy could not be quenched, and his attempts on David's life continued. David was forced to flee and live as a fugitive. Even in these dark times, Jonathan risked his own safety to support David. He met with David in secret, encouraged him to trust in God's plan, and reaffirmed their covenant of friendship. Jonathan promised, "Do not fear, for the hand of Saul, my father, shall not find you. You shall be king over Israel, and I shall be next to you." The friendship between David and Jonathan faced its greatest test when David realized he could no longer stay near Saul's court. Jonathan, torn between his love for his father and his loyalty to David, agreed to help David escape. They devised a plan involving archery signals to communicate in secret. When it became clear that Saul would not rest until David was dead, the two friends met one last time in a field. They embraced and wept together, knowing their paths would diverge. David fled into the wilderness, and Jonathan returned to his father's court, where tensions continued to rise. Jonathan's loyalty to David never wavered, even as he remained by Saul's side. In a tragic turn of events, Jonathan fought alongside his father in a battle against the Philistines on Mount Gilboa. Both Saul and Jonathan were killed in the battle. When David learned of Jonathan's death, he was heartbroken. He composed a poignant lament, recorded in 2 Samuel 1, in which he mourned the loss of his beloved friend. He wrote, "I am distressed for you, my brother Jonathan. You have been very pleasant to me. Your love to me was extraordinary, surpassing the love of women." David's grief is vividly expressed in David and Jonathan, and at the same time, the painting also reflects the personal struggles and hardships of the artist, Rembrandt. Rembrandt, born in 1606 in Leiden, Netherlands, is celebrated as one of the foremost painters of the Dutch Golden Age. Despite achieving considerable acclaim during his lifetime, Rembrandt faced significant personal tragedies, including the death of his wife, Saskia, and several of his children. These experiences profoundly influenced his work, particularly in his later years. The David and Jonathan painting was created shortly after the death of Rembrandt's beloved wife, Saskia, who passed away in June 1642. This loss likely infused the work with a deep emotional resonance, as it parallels the themes of love and farewell depicted in the biblical story. David is depicted as a young man overwhelmed with grief, weeping as he embraces Jonathan. Jonathan, slightly older and composed, holds David closely while displaying his own sorrow. Jerusalem is portrayed gleaming in the left background, with a quiver of arrows at David's feet, interpreted as the weapons Jonathan gave to David after the victory over Goliath. What impressed me the most was Rembrandt's masterful use of light and shadow. The soft lighting guides the viewer's gaze to focus on the faces and gestures of David and Jonathan, highlighting the emotional tension between them. It also made me reflect deeply on the bond that transcends both class and gender. I still find it incredible that a legitimate heir would be willing to relinquish the throne and risk opposing his own father to unconditionally support another person who reciprocated with the same depth of emotion. Aside from meeting a soulmate, something one might only encounter once in a lifetime, I can hardly think of any other explanation.